Jody, I was wondering if you could tell me, like, what are essential oils and why is it important that we go for quality oils?
Essential oils are that volatile or the component of a plant that can evaporate. So it's called the volatile aromatic, meaning fragrant, smelly component of the plant. And so the essential oil compounds can come from almost any part of the plant. It might be the leaves or the seeds or the stems, but they're the part that creates the fragrance. And some of us actually say that the essential oils are kind of like the lifeblood of the plant, because they carry around those natural chemical constituents that provide defense for the plant. So that's where they get a lot of those properties that we all covet, because we can then use those to provide similar defense mechanisms for ourselves and for our pets.
And so why is it important that we don't just buy what we see on sale or at a bath shop?
Well, I'm a big believer in whole foods, whole food supplements, those types of things. The whole herb as far as being safe and effective. And the same goes with essential oils, although essential oils are probably more potent and potentially toxic because they are only part of the plant. So plants have built into them a mechanism for effectiveness and potency, but then also a protective mechanism. When you start pulling it apart, you will create more potency, but potentially more toxicity. So what sometimes happens in our world and the different systems of looking for potent medicines is that we can extract these different kinds of compounds from the plants and concentrate them. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. We might be pulling those compounds out so that we can make a very effective medicine. And that's why the pharmaceutical industry kind of has its eye on essential oils, because from the allopathic perspective, they're probably the closest to kind of a drug or a medicine. So that can be really helpful in that we have this natural resource for a medicine for ourselves and our pets, but it is also something out there that other companies want to extract and isolate components which can then make them dangerous, or even duplicate them in a synthetic laboratory derived way. And then they're going to be potentially more toxic because they've lost that balancing component that was in the original plant. So when you go and buy those oils somewhere where they aren't really the complete oil from the plant, and they've either been synthesized or extracted and then concentrated, that could potentially make them more dangerous.
That makes sense. So how does one know? I mean, it's like we go to the store, stores have gotten really good at when they market their essential oils, they put it in sort of a natural place. They have the labeling, has the old school, like I call it the farmer's market type of labeling. So it looks like it's really quality. How do we know if something is quality and something is not?
Honestly, one of the things you want to look for when you're right there in the store and you're looking at the bottle is you do want to see if they've actually listed the full botanical name, the genus and the species. Some of those oils, if you're able to actually open the bottle and smell it, you should trust your nose. Sometimes you can really detect that chemical smell. When you walk through a department store and you walk by and they want to spritz that perfume on you, and right away, if you've been into the natural realm for a while, you really become adverse to those kind of chemical smells. So, I don't wear perfumes anymore at all. And so I can really sense that chemistry just by using my nose and trusting my nose. Of course, you can go to the website. You want to try to know as much as you can about the manufacturer, the formulator, the farms where they're getting the oils. Do they have some of their own farms? How involved are they in the whole process? Do they actually utilize some of their own seed? Are they involved with the harvesting? Are they involved with the bottling and the quality control? Do they make an effort to do that? I think it's great to support local and small farms in many situations, but there can also be something said for the larger organizations where there's sort of a magnifying glass on them. Sometimes the bigger your company, the more compliant you're actually forced to be. Some of the smaller companies can kind of fly under the radar for a while. So you might find that their labeling, even the labeling that, in a health food store, isn't actually compliant labeling. It's really not up to snuff with, what the FDA actually requires. Another thing that I used to look for was whether or not it said on there if the oil could be taken internally or not. I believe that I only use essential oils on animals that can be used internally for humans, because the pets potentially, of course, are going to lick themselves. It used to be that you could count on that on the label, but now the FDA has changed their rules where even if an oil is able to be taken internally, if you want to also recommend it as topical or for diffusing, then you actually have to make that distinction and make a choice and put on your label it's either for internal use or topical diffusion, not both.
Okay.
So companies that can afford to make an oil in 2 different bottles with 2 different labels can then label it that way. So you can still look for that and try to avoid the ones that say for external use only if you're going to use them on pets. But that's not as much of a distinction as it used to be.
Right. And so, yeah, when I was a member of Young Living, I remember seeing that on the bottles with them as well. They and they had a lot of great information on their website, which is one of the things that I've noticed is, when I'm just getting back into looking into essential oils, there aren't a lot of, I would call, official websites with information. It seems to be mostly blogs out there that are where people are sharing, what they know about essential oils. And so can you speak to, for those of us who want to learn more about essential oils, is there anything we should be aware of given the internet and the amount of information that's out there?
Is true of essential oils and herbs and anything, vitamins, is that you cannot say that a particular natural substance can be utilized for a disease. So if you're a pet owner and you're looking around the internet and you're looking for an essential oil to use for arthritis, and you go to the company's website, you're not going to find them saying use this oil for arthritis unless they are actually a company that's not following the rules. So my point is that it's what you will actually find on the company websites is that a particular essential oil is being utilized to support a given body system. So as the consumer, you'll need to read into that, and you'll need to educate yourself a little bit to know if we're going to talk about arthritis, then what body systems are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the musculoskeletal system. So what oils are they recommending for that? Or if the company explains or divulges the different natural chemical constituents that are in their essential oil, then you can Google that natural chemical constituent and you can figure out, well, what is that natural chemistry doing for the body? And then you could extrapolate that essential oil then may be useful for that particular body part or tissue.
Fantastic. And so are there any oils that we as pet owners should avoid with our pets?
So in general, so I like this question because I think that there's a lot of fear out there. So I made a little list of the typical toxic to pets, especially cats, list that we're seeing floating around out there. And from my perspective and my experience that I've had with the oils, I'm kind of surprised and sad to see this kind of list floating around. I do think we need to be cautious, but I think there's a lot of unfounded fear out there. So on this particular list was peppermint, lemon, even lavender was on the list, cinnamon, melaleuca or tea tree, wintergreen, thyme, clove, eucalyptus or the pine family. So many of those are what we call hot oils or they're high in phenols. So we should definitely be aware of those and cautious with those. But Those of us that use the oils routinely for our pets use many, many of those commonly, even on a daily basis for many years without any kind of consequences. The one that I would caution against is pennyroyal. And I would also say that we do need to be careful with tea tree, and but there are definitely ways that that can be used safely, and that all of the oils, the thing about it, it doesn't matter even the safest one that you're talking about, it's all dose dependent.
Yeah.
And it matters how much you use, how you use it, how you dilute it, how frequently you use it, and those kinds of things.
Right. And so when it comes to, like, for instance, I diffuse oils in my home for my dogs. And is there like a rule of thumb as far as like how many drops you can put per square footage?
Sure. So one thing that I see repeated a lot is diffusing for about an hour 3 times a day. That you don't want to diffuse 24/7. You want to make sure the pet can get out of the room and make the choice whether or not it wants to be near those oils that are being diffused. I think it also matters if you're using, first of all, with quality oils, you should always be using cold air diffusion. None of those products that you find at the bath and body shops where there's heat involved and you plug something in that generates warmth and then that changes that chemistry of the oil. So we're talking about diffusers that are cold air diffusers, but basically there's 2 types. One is ultrasonic, where there's water involved, and then there's the kind where water drives the oil through a little glass apparatus and it bounces around. That's a nebulizer, and then those little oil particles are much smaller and can penetrate better. The type that's ultrasonic with the water is still extremely beneficial because you'll use less oil, for example. So you could put 3 drops of oil in one of those little ultrasonics mixed in with the water. It's going to last for a very, very long time, and you're really going to smell that scent, you know, in your house. So it can still have a medicinal impact as well as being there, you know, just to make your house smell nice.
Yeah. When it comes to making our own products at home, you know, is there just, what can you speak to that? I mean, it's like, what, you know, benefits, what warnings do you have for those of us who want to make a flea and tick spray or a dog shampoo?
Sure. So one of the things that I see being done a lot with essential oils commercially and with people making their own is using an essential oil as a spot-on to replace the spot-ons that you're using for flea and tick